Ditch the balcony and join us at the drive-in. This is Arthouse Summer. I'm the MovieDude Eric, your immortal host who always gets sand everywhere.
I'm Chris Tondevold.
I'm Christian Lee, the Internet's dad.
In this episode, we're discussing The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, Arnold Vosloo, John Hannah, and Kevin J. O'Connor, directed by Stephen Sommers. So, gentlemen, Arthouse Summer. It's been a while since I've done Arthouse Summer, and I gotta say right now, it is so good to be at the drive-in, especially since it seems like the drive-in is the only place that you can go to the movies in 2020. But I gotta ask, what about them Universal monster movies? How familiar are you with Universal monster flicks?
Well, I mean, I love the old school monster movies. I know that they're trying to bring them back and failing miserably. I've caught a couple of the things they've tried to do, and it's just an utter disappointment from Van Helsing on. And I know Van Helsing isn't like one of the official ones that they're trying to bring back, but that was their dipping the toe in the water of the stuff, and it's just not working out.
Yeah, I think they've tried 3 times to jumpstart the dark universe, so to say. I mean, one official time with the logo and everything, but I'll be honest here. It looks like this year they might have actually gotten it on the right foot, but then we might talk about that a little bit later. But what about you, Chris?
I've seen Young Frankenstein. That counts, right?
No.
I would. Oh, come on.
Not as the classic monster movies. It doesn't count. It's better than all of them, but it doesn't count.
Right. I did see the new Invisible Man, and that is amazing. I think it's one of the better ones. And if they keep doing it like a grounded version of it, I think that would be a really cool take on everything. I had thought about watching Brendan Fraser's Mummy and then watching Tom Cruise's Mummy, and then I just like gave up with all the negativity around that movie and just the fact that everybody, it's a unanimous, it destroyed a whole franchise before you could even start. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll skip it. And then I forgot, like, the Mummy, the Brendan Fraser's Mummy is actually fun. I thought I would hate it.
Well, we're definitely going to get into that. I mentioned kind of a story the last time you were here, Christian, regarding the Mummy, but I'll go into more detail. But I got to talk about my familiarity with the Universal monsters. So, honestly, I didn't get into the Universal monster until they hit DVD, and I was one of those Netflix users that would get the 5-disc thing back before the whole streaming thing, and I would just keep rotating movies left and right. I went through approximately 300 to 400 Netflix DVDs in a month in order to just get caught up in all the movies that I hadn't have gotten a chance to until that particular. And I went through the Universal monster movies the same Halloween period as I did the Val Lewton horror films. I don't know if you're familiar with the Lewton films or not, but
no.
Oh man, I'll tell you this right now. They are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We might talk about Cat People during Arthouse of Horror in October, because Val Lewton is an amazing producer. He is the Jason Blum of his time.
And we're not talking about Cat People as in cats.
No.
Right?
No. We're talking about a good Cat People. In fact, you don't even see the Cat People for the majority of the film. It's again, I'm not going to talk more about it because I feel like it will be a movie that will have to be talked about during our horror month. But I'll be honest here, a lot of them didn't really impress me. We Arthouse of Horror did Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein and Dracula in prior years. So, we've talked about some of the monsters, although I think some of my favorites are like Creature of the Black Lagoon. I was okay with the original Mummy, but it wasn't my jam, especially considering that I'd seen it after I had seen.
Well, I mean, they weren't meant to impress people of our generation. They were meant to impress like 5 generations ago.
Yeah,
people that had no idea what any of this stuff is. So I was exposed to all these movies by like Svengoolie, and late night shows like that. So they added the cheesy commentary to it. I mean, you can't get scared watching that movie if you were born past the 60s or 70s. I
don't normally get scared with movies anyway, but the thing is that I have a deep respect because I absolutely love Dracula. Todd Browning's Dracula, in my opinion, is one of the best monster movies of all time. And a lot of that is Bela fucking Lugosi because he was the shit in that movie. I fucking love that performance. And then, of course, Claude fucking Rains as the Invisible Man. Mwah! Chef's kiss right there. But, just the Mummy just didn't... But that said, though, again, I wonder if it is also because I did see this Mummy before I saw that one. And I gotta say, I'm a little biased towards this Mummy. This Mummy, when I had seen the trailers for it, and again, this is 1999. This is the summer of Star Wars. Just before this movie, for like the last month, everyone had seen The Matrix for about 300 times before this movie came out. And so, The Mummy was not a movie that I think anyone was really excited for. Of all the movies that were coming out in the summer of 1999, The Mummy just didn't really look like it was going to have anything. And yet, when I went and saw this in theaters with my best friend, we loved it. It was, I didn't expect to love it as much as I did. And as I mentioned before, I missed my prom to go see The Mummy. What I didn't say was, it was because I saw it a second time, which is why I missed my prom.
It's really sad. Yeah, it's really sad. I was throwing things at the screen when I went to see The Mummy. When are we going to get to me being able to trash this movie? Like, okay, you missed your prom. You love The Mummy. The old Mummy doesn't scare you. I don't care. When do I get to trash the movie?
Oh, you're gonna have the next hour to.
I had no expectations of this movie, and as soon as it started, I was yelling at the screen.
All right. Well, I guess before we jump into it, Chris, when did you first see this movie? Because it sounded like you saw it before you saw it for this podcast.
I mean, so I've watched a lot of the Mummies, and I'm not proud of it. I watched The Rock turn into whatever terrible CGI monster that was.
Abomination.
Yeah, it wasn't good. And I think there's like 6 Scorpion King movies, which is just fucking ridiculous. Anyway, so I watched it when I was a kid, because it came out when I was like 12 or 13.
Thank you for making me feel old.
Yep. So you're both welcome. And I'm just trying to like remember. It must have been on TV or something, because I don't remember like renting this. I just remember like Brendan Fraser being usually a terrible actor, and I think I saw him. He did that one with. What was her name? She played the devil.
That's Bedazzled.
Yeah. He was in that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember him from like either a terrible like Airhead, right? Or like this romantic lead. That's all I remember. And then I saw this and I was like, oh, this is different. He's trying to Indiana Jones it up. And I distinctly remember not liking this movie when I first saw it. And I don't remember why.
So you're telling me that you missed the timeless classics of Encino Man and George of the Jungle?
Oh yeah, I remember George of the Jungle. That's funny. Where he's still dumb, so it counts. Airhead is dumb, so that works. So he was a caveman or just dumb, so that works. Yeah, so I remember watching this and not liking it. and I was fully expecting to not like it again. And then I had a great time, and I'm upset about myself with it. And I don't know how to feel anymore, because I definitely, I enjoyed it the second time.
I had a great time, and I don't like myself for it.
I don't.
I mean, okay, if we were watching, Birth of a Nation, and you had a good time, or Schindler's List and had a good time.
Schindler's List was a great time.
No.
It was a fun movie.
It's a hilarious romp. What can I say?
Come on.
But,
I mean, that red really pops, right? Yeah.
I mean, seriously, to the colorblind, it was exciting.
Yeah. I am colorblind, so it was actually exciting.
You're like, finally, everybody sees the world the way I see it.
Welcome to my
Gray
world.
and boring. Can we get to talking bad about this movie? I mean, seriously, it's why I'm here.
I'm ready.
It's the only reason I showed up.
Okay. All right. So, okay, let's go ahead and let's get into this. So, as you mentioned that your familiarity with Brendan Fraser was him playing Airheads and Dumbheads. Believe it or not, my first familiarity with Brendan Fraser was a movie called School Ties. Have either one of you seen School Ties?
I haven't.
School Ties is great.
School Ties was amazing.
Yeah, he's a way better actor than people. Like, you gotta check out Doom Patrol right now. It's great.
So good. Doom Patrol is amazing. And then his stint on Scrubs is really good too. Yeah.
And the thing is, so that's where my familiarity... So I saw Encino Man after that. I'd seen George of the Jungle. And again, I'll be honest. Like I said, I was not really looking forward to The Mummy. Even Brendan Fraser wasn't someone that was like, ooh, I gotta see the new Brendan Fraser movie. That was not my intention. It was after this movie kind of lured me in. It was basically there was nothing else to see that weekend that I was that grabbed me. And so going into this particular movie, I'm going to say this right now. This movie is campy
garbage
as fuck. This is a campy movie. This is like Batman 66 campy. This movie has its tongue so far up in its cheek that I'm surprised you can't see it poking out the other side. That said, it is gloriously campy. It knows that it's campy. It has no problem being campy. It is going to say, I'm going to be as campy as hell, and either you in on it or you're not in on it. And for the most part, the audiences that I saw it with were definitely in on it. But Christian, it sounds like you did not have that type of feeling.
When I had no expectations when I went to see this movie. I just saw the trailers for it. Fine. Want to see the movie. As soon as Brendan Fraser comes on screen, it's Indiana Jones.
Right.
As soon as Brendan Fraser comes on screen, it's Indiana Jones. It's an Indiana Jones knockoff. And I hated it because I said out loud, this is Indiana Jones? They're doing Indiana Jones? Benny, his friend, or the guy that turns on him, that's Alfred Molina's character in Indiana Jones. The mirrors, the digging in the wrong cave, the key, the running in one direction and then going, oh, there's bad guys. That's Star Wars and Indiana Jones. The bugs, I hate bugs. The superiority with firearms, the music, the time period. It was Indiana Jones. Rachel Weisz was Marcus from Indiana Jones. I mean, Marcus Brody, but she was Marcus Brody with boobs. It's Indiana Jones fan fiction. That's what this movie is. And I hated it when I saw it in the theater because it's Indiana Jones fan fiction. And then I waited my whole childhood to adult life to see the new Indiana Jones movie. And when it came out, I was so pissed because The Mummy was a better Indiana Jones movie than this. And it turned me on The Mummy, and I actually now like it. That's what made me mad. I hated this movie when I saw it. I hated it. The whole time I was like, fuck you, Brendan Fraser. You're no Indiana Jones. You're no Indiana Jones, Brendan Fraser. And when he did, when he filmed Extraordinary Measures with Harrison Ford should have punched him in his fucking mouth right then. He should have just punched him in the mouth and said, you're not me. And then they made that horrible Crystal Skull movie, and I was like, you know what? Brendan Fraser should have just been Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
It pissed me off to no end that they brought me back around on this movie, and I've enjoyed it ever since.
I would have actually liked to see an O'Connell and Indiana Jones movie together because they were at the same time, and then you just sidestep that into franchise. That would have been perfect.
Okay,
I mean, honestly, the proof that it's Indiana Jones is that it turns out, looking back, it was a decent movie followed by worsening sequels.
Oh God, yeah. I'll tell you this right now. I like I said, I had no excitement about going into The Mummy, but when I heard about The Mummy Returns, I was excited. Like they set me up for disappointment. Like I came out of The Mummy Returns feeling like, what? I was absolutely stunned that movie was as bad as it was. Like I felt cheated, and then I was again lured back to the Scorpion King. I went to see the Scorpion King, just thinking, okay, maybe it was just a one time. It was bad.
No, it was worse.
You know, oh my God, I would have taken the CG Scorpion rock thing in The Mummy Returns over all of the Scorpion King.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the Mummy Returns destroyed everything they did in The Mummy. Yeah. So, I mean, they made the whole Rachel Weisz character, or Rachel Weisz. They made all of that meaningless, where he was trying to turn her into his woman because, oh, she's actually descendant from her. They just created all of this stuff. It was basically Star Wars sequels of, hey, let's just make the characters all connected. The whole thing they've done with the new Star Wars movie. They're like, oh, everybody's connected for real. And it's like, no, they're not. They're not.
You know, thinking back on it, I think what they should have done instead of doing kind of The Mummy Returns is what they should have done was they took the O'Connell character and the brother and the Rachel Weisz and John Hamm character and have them go up against Dracula. Like, instead of it being the same monster, do all the Universal monsters except it's O'Connell that's having to deal with it. I mean,
and they didn't even need to have Rachel Weisz. I mean, they should have done what they did. Look, they copied Indiana Jones. To say that they didn't copy Indiana Jones is disingenuous. But what they should have done is said, hey, since we're copying Indiana Jones, why don't we do the same thing? There'll be a new chick in this movie. Yeah, I said chick because that's what Indiana Jones thought of women. So we have a new lady in this movie, and we go up against some different monster. Just like you said, like it would be that kind of thing and keep it in the monster realm.
Well, the thing is that you're saying that they're copying Indiana Jones, and I'm going to say not entirely, because Star Wars and Indiana Jones are all copying the old serials. Errol Flynn, the adventure movies of the 40s and 50s, the Road to Bali, the road movies with Bing Crosby.
Yeah, I get that.
All of that.
But
stuff.
There was stuff so the same when they're digging in the wrong hole. Mm-hmm. They're like, where are they digging over there for? They don't know what they're doing. They dig in, they get in, they use the mirrors the same way he uses the torch. I mean, there are so many similarities. The only thing he didn't carry was a whip, dude.
Right.
The only thing he didn't carry was a whip. That's it. I mean, it was, and I know Indiana Jones is an homage. So was Star Wars to the samurai movies. I get all of that. But this movie was a guy that said, man, I grew up loving Indiana Jones. I really wish I could have made one of those. And it's like, oh, you can. You can.
Well, there's a lot of aspects to this film. I think I would like to go into a little bit more detail about not just kind of the homages to old serials, because I think that there is some stuff that, again, like I said, this film plants its tongue so deep into its cheek. It's like it winks at the audience quite frequently, letting you know that this is this. I feel like this movie is both kind of a nod to the old monster movies as much as it is to the old Abbott and Costello movies. Like there are some of the comedy bits that are in this movie feel like they come from like the Abbott and Costello Meet the Wolfman, or Abbott and Costello Meet Dracula, or the Frankenstein's monster. It feels like that's kind of added to that quite a bit. So it's like it's doing like three things at the same time. Yes, it's kind of in the same vibe as the old monster movie with the comedy, but it's also kind of doing Indiana Jones and adding that. I will say though, O'Connell as the Indiana Jones replacement, I like the fact that he does have his own kind of vibe that's slightly different to Indiana Jones. His he is not obsessed for glory. He is, in fact, I would say he's more like Han Solo than he is Indiana Jones, in the sense that, I'm always in scrapes. I'm always having to get myself out of it. I think quick on my feet, and I really don't have that much of allegiances. Indiana Jones is all about the glory. O'Connell doesn't have that glory. O'Connell doesn't care about glory. For the most part, he'll maybe go out for the treasure, maybe. But there are times when he knows that this treasure ain't worth his neck, and his neck comes first. Which is probably why he survived, to be honest, because it seems like the ones who are the most obsessed about the treasure, with the exception of Evie's brother, they all get punished for their greed. And so, yeah, O'Connell is only saved by the fact that he values his neck more than he values money. Which I find it ironic that the second time that we meet him, literally his neck is on the line. I gotta admit, I love the fact that he actually gets hung. In the movie, there's something about that just like it tells you everything you need to know about the character, why he's getting hung, how he gets himself out. He actually doesn't get himself out of getting hung. It's actually Evie that gets him out of it. But at the same time, though, I love how it does set up. This establishes that Rick and Evie watch out for each other. Like, there are instances throughout the film where one is watching out for the other. Like, at one point, Rick is watching out for her and is keeping her safe, and then the next moment, she's saving his neck. And I love that it's back and forth, and that it's not a damsel in distress for the most part. Because she actually gives herself up to save him at the end of the film, and he comes to rescue her. So again, it's that I love that back and forth. I love that. I love the fact that Evie is a much more interesting character than Marion or Marcus. That she actually has a stake in it, and I think that's the thing that pisses me off the most about the Mummy Returns is they completely remove that from her. They take that away because she becomes more of a damsel in that one instead of being
no, they give her the dance fighting skills. She becomes a dance fighter. So, she's totally like killing people with dance moves. That's ridiculous.
Are you talking? I feel. Are you saying that Jumanji took things from the Mummy Return? Because that's a good way to keep me from Jumanji movies. But anyway, but I do want to talk about something that I've been kind of wrestling with when I watched it for this. When I watched it for this episode, I went into critic mode. So all the other times I watch The Mummy, I watch it pretty much just to enjoy the movie. This time,
you just turn your brain off, right?
Yeah. So this time, I do this what I do with every movie in this podcast. I got to look at this thing. I got to really, really dig into it. And the thing that I found myself kind of asking myself in this movie is the side characters, because we have a lot of ethnic and they're.
Yeah, you got some people with some face paint on too. This movie wouldn't be able to happen right now.
No, definitely not.
This movie's not happening.
Okay, now
the dad from Jumanji has brown face paint on. That's that's the dad. You brought up Jumanji, the original Jumanji movie. Yeah. The dad, the white British dad, has got brown splattered all over his face. I
think it was meant to be tan. I think because he is clearly British. He is clearly British. British. I mean,
no.
Everything about
that was. I have a British accent because we're colonized. That's what that was. That was yeah.
So the most blatant one is whoever the dude that he strings up O'Connell to begin with. There's that blatant joke of definitely comparing him to a camel and just dirty and spits everywhere and is smelly. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, how did this happen? 20 years doesn't seem like that long ago, but that definitely shouldn't have been a thing. But I don't know. It was just that threw me off completely.
A visual gag, though. I think that was more of a
visual
gag.
understand this movie came out 2 weeks before Watto. Okay, I feel like we need to kind of keep this in perspective. Okay.
Oh yeah, I don't judge it by 2020 standards like everybody does nowadays.
Right.
I'm just saying it would not have happened, and there was a guy in brownface.
Well,
I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, I also want to talk about Baby, but no, I always took that the professor was the professor was British.
No, you're talking about Evie's boss.
No.
I'm talking about the guy that was leading the white guys.
I know. I know you're talking about.
He was supposed to be brown.
That's Jonathan Hyde.
He was supposed to be brown.
I didn't take him as that. I never took him. I thought he was British. I just because the reason why I also say that is because he's because when the Americans, who are the ones that are working with Jonathan Hyde, they use the help, the carriers to open the acid salt, which I have to admit that was kind of cool. I mean, a little silly, but also pretty cool. Because I don't know if I could, when it comes to like booby traps, you definitely have to worry about falling straight into Jones territory. But so
they melted people's face off just like Indiana Jones.
I just took it that he was a Brit who was living there that was just really tame, because there was nothing ethnic about him. Because again, Jonathan Hyde is definitely British. He acts British. He he just had a tan. Just kind of what I took it. The one that I found myself really kind of getting worried was the prison the prison warden. Although I loved his one-liners, so I loved there's something really charming about him, and he isn't like outright like evil. He's just the only thing that you can say about him is that he was greedy, but at the same time, that was the whole point, that everyone is there. The whole point for Hamanatra, with the exception of Evie, was to make money. So I feel like you can't say that he's in the wrong for wanting the same things.
No. And he was there for comic relief. I mean, he's not in America, but worldwide, he's a very famous comedian.
Yeah.
Very big stand-up. So not big here, bigger in Britain, but also in, the Middle East and stuff. He's a very big comic. So having him there was kind of like hey, we got one of their okays, by having him in the movie. And then he was doing the jokes, like you said, with the camel jokes and stuff.
Yeah, I just don't think that, like what we talked about, that particular gag would go nowadays for sure.
Oh yeah,
because
definitely.
You would have so many people being like, that's not okay. Like you can't just compare a person to a camel. But I can kind of see your point, Eric, with the other dude. Either way, he's colonialism, so who cares?
Oh no, this movie definitely has ideas about colonialism. There's nothing that says colonialism.
Well, I mean,
is good
it took place
movie.
back then. I mean,
Yeah.
it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And for anybody you can't judge it two ways. You can't judge it from 2020. So, and you also have to think, it's set in a time period where that is
in
the
1920.
case. I mean, the Royal Air guy,
this is just
the guy
after
at the
World War I.
airfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy at the airfield, he's just saying, it's so boring now because we're not fighting anybody.
Right.
And, like planting England's flag. So, he wants the glory of that. So you can't judge movies like that.
And that guy was
I hate it that people
amazing.
do. But it made me laugh when I noticed it.
Right.
But the character I do want to talk about right quick is Benny, because
Alfred Molina? Sure.
That fucking guy.
Okay, so Benny, I always kind of I always kind of took him as kind of a caricature, and he is. But the thing I found myself looking at, because I was wondering the same thing, like is he, because Kevin J. O'Connor has absolutely no Middle East or North African descent in him. He is clearly American. In fact, Stephen Sommers has Kevin J. O'Connor in practically every movie he's made. And yes, he's made probably more movies than he ever should have. But just saying. But seriously, Kevin J. O'Connor playing Benny, I like. I do kind of like a squirrely kind of Weasley bad guy. I feel like an adventure movie kind of needs to have one that you can, like a mid-level, mid-tier boss type thing, or someone who has higher aspirations. But at the same time, though, with the Fez, I wonder if it was meant to play as that he was kind of that he was Egyptian of some sort.
Yeah.
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 But
yeah, definitely.
But
he's just a little light.
Yeah.
Just a little light.
I don't know what to take of this. But the thing is that I also was looking at, and I was asking myself, is it possible that Benny really isn't, but he's also one of those types of Weasley characters that he'll be like a white guy that pretends to be in order to keep himself from getting attacked. Like the scene that I love about this movie, one of those scenes I absolutely love in this movie, is when Imhotep corners Benny and Benny pulls out all of those religious medallions.
Yeah.
Because that's what he is. He's a snake.
Yes,
yeah.
and so
Yeah.
and he's
going to do whatever he has to do.
And the thing that I really did not like, it didn't really hit me until this time. This movie has an Egyptian being anti-Semitic. Like, Imhotep takes Benny as a Jewish servant.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Like,
not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the original anti.
Yeah, that's the Bible. I don't know what to say.
Bible,
like,
man.
Yeah,
They built their pyramids.
This movie even makes a big thing about the plagues, and of course you can't talk about the plagues without talking about, why the plagues.
That's what I
occurred.
hated. I hated in this movie. First of all, my dad was a preacher. I met my wife, and I say the F word. But it's so insane to me that the Pharaoh, he's not even the Pharaoh. He's the magician for the Pharaoh.
Right.
He's the one causing the biblical plagues. You've got a guy quoting the Bible with the Bible verses every time a plague comes. And I'm like, that's not who did that. That's not who did that.
Okay. Oh, no,
It's
no.
a Jewish guy that did the plagues.
I'm a historian, and I've
They're
actually
totally
studied-
mixing up the story.
I'm a historian, and I actually studied Egyptian history to an extent. Imhotep isn't even a priest. The actual Imhotep was the architect for the pyramids. He was an architect. He's in fact considered to be one of the greatest architects in history. They didn't even get him right. But
that's a quibble at this point. But he's causing the biblical Jewish plagues. And yes, he acknowledged that he, pulled out the Jewish star. He's like, oh, okay, you're one of the people that was a slave. That made sense. Him causing the locusts and the rivers to turn to blood, even though he didn't, all their drinks turn to blood. And all of that stuff, it's ridiculous.
And what does he tempt Benny with in order to get his allegiance? Gold.
Yeah, but I mean, that's, you know what? That's a little on the nose. Everybody in that movie was tempted by gold.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that one.
I know, but no, it's just just
yeah,
but
I mean,
again, we're looking at the stereotype
you're
aspects
looking at
of this
it
movie.
Yeah.
But no, I found that to be like, ooh, that's getting a little warm in here. Yeah. And honestly, like the character, I'm conflicted about Benny. I'm conflicted about, because I like the idea of just a character that can a weasel character. I guess you could the Padfoot of sorts. For all you Harry Potter fans out there, someone that you can want to get punched around and get thrown around a bit. Just because you have such an unstoppable force in Imhotep. That Imhotep ain't going to get touched until near the end of the movie.
Let's talk about why,
yeah.
First of all, okay? Because this movie doesn't make any sense, and from the first 5 minutes and the voiceover, nothing makes sense. I do want to point out that they open the movie with a mostly nude woman who has her nipples strategically covered, and then pretty much that was all the titillation you're getting in this movie. I was like, when I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, you're selling me on the wrong movie, man. That's not this movie.
Yeah, that was a hard crush. That was just like, come here, please.
So when we're talking about yeah, exactly. When we're talking about Imhotep, what were the point of his bodyguards if they couldn't stop the Pharaoh guards? They followed him around everywhere, but they couldn't do anything. So they were pointless. Second of all, he only needed one guy to go, hey, I hear boots. That's all he needed. Okay. Second thing, the death sentence that they give Imhotep. Okay. Mm-hmm. The death sentence that the quote unquote good guys, they all had slaves. The quote unquote good guys give Imhotep is to bury him in a way that if he's ever dug up, he will be all powerful and rule the world. If you catch what they said, he wasn't all powerful then. He didn't have magic to rule the world then. He gets it from the way they punished him.
Well,
yeah, that's the curse.
It makes no sense.
No, it does.
None at all.
Because the whole point is they wanted him to stay alive forever in order to be punished forever. He was supposed to get eaten by those...
That's different than give him the power of the gods. That's different than give him the power of the gods. So they said he would be an unstoppable plague.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, you just messed with the Pharaoh's wife. We're going to have you eaten alive for eons. But hey, if anybody opens this box, you'll be the most powerful thing in the world.
They're not going to care at that particular... Understand
that makes no sense.
They're not interested in saving the world. They don't care about the world. They just care about themselves. And the way they think is...
His guys could have opened it up 3 days later. They should have cared.
No.
All of his guys could have come in there and opened it up. It makes no sense.
That's not how the pyramids work. Again, honestly, this is fitting for an Arthouse summer thing because
Chris, I'm right, right?
So,
right, Chris?
So look, there's two things with this. One, you can't say that's not how pyramids work because the fuck, like they're tombs for whatever. He was also buried under Anubis, so whatever, it doesn't matter. If we want to actually like get into the nitty gritty of history, we're all going to lose our minds. We're not going to do this. This isn't a bad thing. Secondly, like, don't give the person that fucked up the most power. Like,
exactly.
This is not what you're supposed to do.
You're saying that in 2020, my friend.
No, it made no sense.
So
it was the very first plot point of the movie, and it made absolutely no sense.
So the other thing with this too is when I understand kind of like the dual-edged sword where you want to punish him forever and you want to like make him suffer for eternity by having him eaten up by bugs. But you know he's going to come back eventually. Like someone's going to fuck up eventually and we're going to have the end of the world. It doesn't matter when it is. Like fuck everybody. Like this is
none of the magic made sense in this movie. Like
no.
Why did they divided up her organs into the jars, right? Mm-hmm. Why did he need those to bring her back if he just needed a host?
Well, no,
I don't know. I don't know how magic works.
Why, he could have just gotten her new eyes and stuff from her host, just like he was doing from other people. None of the magic made sense in this movie, or magic, spiritualism, whatever you want to say.
Magnets,
absolutely none of it.
Who knows how that works?
They went out of their way to show that a guy could not see without his glasses, and that's the guy he took his eyes.
That made me so mad.
So angry. So mad. Because it's not even like they showed in a previous scene that if he loses his glasses, he can't see very good.
It's actually
it was the same
The first
scene.
thing he says on the boat is I can't see without my glasses. Are the first things that he says.
And that's all they
during the
to
poker
do.
game, right?
Because they did it right as he was taking his eyes. Imhotep was in the hallway when he saw him lose his glasses and said, you know what? I'm going to get this guy's eyes.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
Gosh,
like he didn't even have. Yeah, he didn't even have contacts. There's no laser eye surgery. There's no nothing. Like you can't just like magically make your eyes work.
Honestly, that would have been awesome if he would have been like nearsighted for the rest of the movie. That would honestly, let's be honest here. If Imhotep had a hard time seeing people out of this guy's eyes.
That would have been funny. At least it would have been funny and been a good joke. Because if he had like taken a couple swings at Brendan Fraser and Brendan Fraser was like, What, can you not see real good? Yeah, whatever it is.
Right.
That would have been funny.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to immediately show this guy's blind and then take his eyes.
Take his eyes and his tongue.
No
Don't
sense.
forget the fact that he also took his tongue too.
But only the tip, because you could still understand what he was saying, which you can never understand what people are saying when they take your tongue out. So he's like, just the tip.
Right.
You know.
I was upset about
That's what
that. I think
Princess
that would have
Anouk said.
I think that would have been a way better comedic take as far as him just not being able to see, rather than
Definitely.
Benny like being thrown out a window and doing that weird close up. Because like what you said with the Abbott and Costello stuff, like that threw me off of the movie. Like the physical comedy of it, I didn't really like it. They could have done way more.
That. I mean, honestly, they had a bunch of that in Indiana Jones too.
Yeah.
If we really look at that with a fresh eye. So,
No pun intended.
but yeah, I get what you're saying. But go all the way with it if you're going to go.
Yeah. Keep me actually like there's got to be a line through everything, right? So if this dude's blind without his glasses, which I understand because without laser eye surgery, I couldn't see past my elbow. So I know what that feel is to where you hear
my
that
wife is
crunch
that way.
and you're done. Like there's no life for you after that.
My wife is that way. I tell her that every morning she wakes up without her glasses, she gets to feel like she's with a new guy. Because what does she know? She can't
doesn't.
see me.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective there.
I mean, it's all the same in the dark, right?
It's true. It is true. All right, so okay, let's talk about the Mummy backstory. Okay, so take the magic out of it, or the whole we'll plague on the planet type thing.
You mean the backstory?
Well, yeah, but the thing is
The whole point plot.
But
Yeah.
what I mean is that the story about this priest who fell in love with basically the Pharaoh's concubine, and he's suffering. And the thing is that if you look at his actions, just in what he's trying to do, all he's really wanting to do is he's just trying to bring back his lost love. There is kind of
destroy a marriage.
Well,
Right.
I mean, technically speaking, her husband's or boyfriend or anyway, her man is been dead for 3,000 years. So to the victor goes the spoils. I don't know. But the thing is that he his actions do kind of resonate. There is kind of a Victor Freeze aspect to this that that if they had taken this seriously, that if they would have played this more as a drama, we could probably even sympathize with Imhotep a little bit, right?
I get that, but he's a monster. The only monster you ever wanted to sympathize with was Frankenstein's monster.
Well, I think all of the...
I mean, because, you just needed a bad guy there. Yeah. Although I'd say Benny was a worse bad guy. No, I don't want to say worse because he was better. Benny was a better bad guy than Imhotep was.
But he's a worse
because
person.
He was screwing his friends.
Yeah.
He was screwing over the next person he could. He was definitely the worst person, yeah. And Benny was also in Van Helsing,
Yes.
which is another horror.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't think about that.
I told you he was in every Stephen Sommers movie. Every one of them. So
I don't even know who Stephen Sommers is, so that works.
the director.
So, the other thing too. So I understand what you're saying about the drama. I also think, and I heard this or read this, whatever. This is like a good introduction to horror for kids because there's so many like horror elements, but it's very still like light, and it's like an easy way to kind of like get in tune to some of the more dramatic or traumatic stuff that could happen. Like
because they never show blood or gore.
Right. And like what you talked about with the acid salt earlier, like that's a legit, could have been even a worse scene. But I think if they would have done it more serious, you could have had that kind of what Eric is talking about, where you could definitely feel for the monster more so, but he also didn't have to be a dick the entire time.
Okay, so one thing that I feel like needs to be said right here as we're talking about this, just after Bram Stoker's Dracula came out and we started to have like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Wolf, Clive Barker was brought in to do The Mummy. And he was going to do it as a hard R horror movie, which was going to take place in modern time and talk about cults and obsession with ancient religions and stuff like that.
That would have been fun.
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. Clive Barker in film is spotty at best when it comes to his final products. But the thing is though is that was kind of the initial take on it, was to do it more as a horror movie, and then afterwards I feel like as we were getting into the late 90s and that fad of taking classic monsters and revamping them for R-rated audiences kind of passed, and we went more towards a PG-13 thing that we're now familiar with. At that particular point, I feel like they wanted to make this more of a summer movie. And a summer movie couldn't be scary. It had to be kind of campy, play more towards kids, something that they could probably make a cartoon of for the kids. In fact, I don't know if they even made. I think they made a Mummy animated series. I feel like it.
I feel like they either did or were going to, or they piloted.
Yeah, I didn't go too deep into this to find out if such a thing exists, but I feel the thing is that they decided to kind of go into this particular direction, and I don't think it was ever meant to be kind of horror. I feel like they wanted it to feel a little bit more like those 80s action movies. Like,
yeah, they did the Mummy series.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought so, yeah.
I wonder if that was during this time or if it was after The Mummy Returns. I don't...
It was like early 2000s, if I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was right after this.
Yeah.
I kind of understand what you're saying as far as like them wanting to go to an action route and doing it that way. I think they do a pretty good job of using more of the scarier elements, but also having that brevity and that lightness with it. Like there's the near the end where Brendan Fraser is fighting all the other mummies,
mm-hmm.
and the mummy falls on top of himself with the big dumb giant rock.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's pretty funny, but the other side of that is the fact that they had like actual realistic mummies, practical mummies, trying to hold him down while this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think they could have pushed it even more, but they played it a little bit safer to do like a summer blockbuster. And I think if they were to have done something like this nowadays, you would have seen a little bit more of an edge on it while still having fun.
You say that after we had a second Mummy reboot just 2 years ago.
Yeah, but that's not this.
No,
yeah, it's a completely different movie. That's Mission Impossible Mummy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Mission Impossible Mummy.
But
it
again,
was him wanting to do Mission Impossible stuff with Mummy. It was.
Yeah, he wanted to drop in from a ceiling in a pyramid.
Yeah, exactly. He's hanging on the ceiling.
I mean, let's be.
Dun, 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 dun.
But in a way, you could kind of see it in that same light, though. Again, it played more towards the action, with a slightly more suspense, but not really horror for that particular one. It was it felt like Tom Cruise wanted to be Tom Cruise fights the Mummy.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, though, like for this one,
it made this Mummy version better.
Definitely. Yeah.
It did, but again, I
didn't even see it, and I still agree with it.
Yeah, just the commercials.
I mean,
it's like, we get it. You're jumping out of an airplane again. Yeah.
Well, actually, no. He crashes. He crashes with the airplane on that one. I have to admit, I did like that part of the Tom Cruise movie. Like when he comes back from the dead after the plane crash, I found myself like, okay, this could get interesting. You know, he's an undead creature having to take on this ultimate evil. I mean, I could see that premise actually having some interesting stuff, and then we see Russell Crowe and all of that goes away because
I didn't even know Russell Crowe was in that movie.
Cinematic universe. Yeah, he plays Dr. Jekyll.
Oh, well, that's terrible.
Yeah,
and his counterpart. For all you literary fans out there, you know who I'm talking about, and if you don't, read a book. But no, it's
Yeah, I think
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think the dark tone of the overall backstory, relationship, and kind of like the burying this person alive basically to be forever damned, and the fact that it's still a very light blockbuster summer movie works. And like I said, I didn't want to enjoy this movie, but I ended up liking it because it had so many different elements to it. And it had the action. It had some of the like the booby traps that we talked about earlier, where it could have been even like worse. And even we talked about the prison warden, him getting chewed up basically from the inside out with that bug. I mean, that's terrifying. Like that's fantastic.
They didn't show the final deaths of anybody, which is why it could still be a kid's movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I actually enjoyed that. I think my kids are going to like this movie because, like I said, every time I've viewed it, I've liked it more. Mm-hmm. The original viewing of it, I was just angry. Like, just so angry.
Yeah.
But then each time I've realized, oh, it's a better movie, especially after seeing the last Indiana Jones movie. I was like, oh, The Mummy's great. This is worse.
Yeah.
This is definitively worse. So you're right. And I think my kids will enjoy the movie and not be too freaked out.
Well, I think part of that has to be, and I'm going to go ahead and cards on the table on this. I feel like some of the reasons why it's a little bit more accessible is because the computer-generated effects in this movie are not good. Like, even for late...
They're better than its sequel.
Okay.
They get worse over time, and I don't understand it.
Well...
The sequel was made, 10 years later? And this has got better special effects.
What, you mean The Mummy
because
Returns?
They dialed it back.
Are we talking about...
no, the Scorpion King.
Scorpion King.
Right,
Scorpion
we're talking
King.
about the worst CGI to ever
Dwayne
be made.
Rock's, yeah. The Dwayne Rock, whatever you want to call that Scorpion
King.
It was horrible.
That was Mummy Returns, though.
Okay.
But
wait, its sequel had worse special effects.
Right. So how long ago was that? So, or not how long ago? What was the span between the first one and the second one then?
2001. So 99 to 2000.
So we're looking at
rushed. The sequel was rushed. Universal, after the day after this release, and it hit numbers that Universal did not expect, and saw and getting an audience, the audience ratings that they were getting from that cinema score. They knew they had a hit at that particular point, and the next day it issued for Stephen Sommers to get started on the sequel, and they wanted it done for summer of 2001.
They heard some dork watch the movie and then said, I'm skipping prom to see this shit again.
That's what I'm saying.
They're like, oh, we know we at least got one for the sequel.
And they got me. I'll be honest. Like I said, I got my tickets in advance for The Mummy Returns. That was how excited I was. It was the first time that I bought tickets online for a movie, was for The Mummy Returns.
I don't think this is anything you should brag about.
So I paid a service fee for the damn Mummy Returns.
Wouldn't have told anyone this story.
it's not. Yeah,
I wouldn't have told anybody this story.
No, you learn from my mistakes. That's what I'm saying here.
You're still doing.
Was it a mistake?
By the way, because I know we've been going a while, but the Imhotep thing that really drove me crazy is at the end of the movie, and you were just talking about it, where the mummies were attacking him, and the stone fell on him, which is a great gag. That's a great gag. The whole time he's fighting those secondary mummies that Imhotep made, Imhotep is Jonathan's running around the room trying to read a book where he's exhibited no knowledge in reading any of that stuff, just his sister has. And then Imhotep is not chasing Jonathan, even though Jonathan's ducking and dodging no one. And Imhotep is also not fighting Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
He's just standing there. There's a scene where you just see him standing there on the stairs, about 15 feet away from Brendan Fraser, and doing nothing.
And the moment Imhotep...
Not using magic, nothing.
And the moment that Imhotep even notices Jonathan drops the damn book. Like, he doesn't even...
He controls sand.
But no...
He controls sand. He could, engulf him and murder him 30 different times in the time it took him. It made... no sense. It was poor writing, all of it.
You know that sand gets everywhere. I mean, let's.
Yeah, he could have destroyed him from his butthole out.
But
he could have taken those 2 grains and shot them through his body.
You know, you actually jumped the gun because I wanted to rant about that. That was going to be my rant. Was the whole where the fuck was Imhotep during this entire fight? What?
He was standing there watching.
like, dude, the whole point, like, they're trying to kill your girl. Like, if he succeeds, your girl is dead. The one that you have gone this entire movie trying to get her back, and you just kind of like sit there with your thumb up your ass. Like, come on.
Okay, they could have fixed it if they had shown him down on his knees by the broken jars and by the water and just like inconsolable. That would have made sense. Like if they had just shown him, like cut to him once or twice, just being inconsolable and just destroyed by it. And then finally, when Jonathan starts reading the words, he kind of wakes up and then goes after him. It at least would have made sense. But him standing in the middle of the room made no sense.
Yeah,
while his girl does all the work.
Yeah, well, the thing is that we couldn't have a guy beat up a girl, and Evie hasn't shown any fighting prowess at this particular point, with the exception that she blows the fuck out of that Magi with the rifle. Like she knocks him off that damn horse with that thing. Like, so at least she's good at aim. That would have been kind of cool if she had gotten a shot off on Princess Anak Moon, but no, it's just like. Yeah, now we're getting into the concept of what would have made this movie better, and there's things that could have made this movie a whole lot better. I feel like a more classic movie. I feel like this could have been up there with Indiana Jones, and I think part of it should have been, honestly, a practical mummy. The mummy more practical instead of CG. I feel like if they would have gone that direction and have the mummy do something more. Make the mummy more interesting before he becomes Arnold Vosloo. Nothing against Arnold Vosloo. I love Arnold Vosloo as a bad guy. He's really good at that. But it's just he doesn't do a whole lot up until he becomes Arnold Vosloo. By that particular point, over half the movie's over with by then, right?
I mean, he did a lot of stuff. So I mean, he did stuff. But you're right, he had already changed over into him, but I thought they did fine with that. I thought the sandstorm stuff was fine for its time. For its time, that was great.
I thought the cult was cool
compared to its sequel. Again, when they didn't rush a movie out, they did okay for the time, and I can, give anything a pass for being as good as its time. The problem was its sequel was not as good as its time.
That's true, and I feel like a part of that was the fact that they rushed it. More that I think about it, I didn't really appreciate the fact that Stephen Sommers basically had to make a sequel that he never intended to make a sequel to, within a time frame, have it written and set up to go and filmed, and then still be able to get the visual effects, even though, let's be honest here, he's already disadvantaged on that one concerning the visual effects he just had in his other movie, or his movie before that, which was Deep Rising, which I don't know if you all have seen that one with the sea serpent.
Yeah. But he was also, I just looked it up, he was also making that cartoon at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So he came out in 2001. Animation takes a year.
Yeah.
So he was working on that, overseeing all that while making this other movie. I mean, it definitely was rushed. This is definitely where guys in suits cause the problems.
For sure, yeah.
And,
well, I mean,
it just didn't work out.
Normally I would say that, but then we have to we talk about Van Helsing when he had more time, and that's one of those.
That had horrible effects as well.
Yeah, it had horrible effects.
I left that movie. I walked out, and somebody bought me a ticket for it. It was a free ticket, and I said, "I'll meet you outside." And they're like, "The movie's only been on for 20 minutes." I said,
fine.
"Yeah, I've been here about 10 or 11 minutes too
Okay,
long."
I'm gonna say there are things about Van Helsing I like. There are things
we've already established you like garbage.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with liking garbage.
No, but the thing is, I'm not going to defend Van Helsing. Van Helsing is a bad movie. There's nothing I cannot defend that. I can defend The Mummy to an extent.
No, The Mummy actually is fun.
I can't defend the majority of Stephen Sommers' movies. I feel like he has more passion than he has talent, or if he just doesn't follow through. I don't know what the deal is with most of his movies, but The Mummy is an exception to the other movies in his repertoire.
What else has he done?
See here, he did the first Jungle Book remake for Disney, the live action one. He did Deep Rising. He did The Mummy, Mummy Returns. He did Van Helsing, and I forgot his last movie.
So he's only done a handful of movies, and only one of them is good?
For the most.
He also did the G.I. Joe movie.
Oh yeah, that's it. G.I.
Okay,
Joe,
cool.
Rise of
So
Cobra.
again, only one of them is good?
Pretty much. I would say
no. Jungle Book was good. I liked it.
I wanted to like the Jungle. I liked the Jungle Book when I was a kid, but then when I come back to it later, it didn't hold up, and it's just the acting is so.
Okay,
wooden.
he made one of the best films ever made, which is Gunmen.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know Gunmen?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, I'm coming back on the podcast.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh my God, Gunmen stars Christopher Lambert and Mario Van Peebles, and Mario Van Peebles.
I've seen that one.
I've seen that one. And Christopher Lambert tells Mario Van Peebles, Kangaroo Fish is going to swim up his ding dong.
Really?
That's a great movie that you need to watch now.
Okay.
Like, we should stop talking. You should watch the
we're going to be
Hey,
we'll be back in a
stopping
couple
soon,
hours.
like I did when I was on the podcast with you previously, you let me bring a little Dad Does Rom-Com stuff to the podcast,
Yeah.
right? So, and on Dad Does Rom-Coms, we talk about rom-coms. We have a shot trope game. So every time there's a movie trope, we point it out and we take a shot. So I've got some tropes for this. And we also do alternate titles, which I released mine when you guys released the last podcast, for the movie. So I gotta get this in because it drove me nuts. So I got 10 tropes for this movie, and I know I missed some.
fantastic.
But the first trope was everyone can read and speak ancient Egyptian. Sunburn never happens in the desert, even to white folks. No one stops at curses or gives pause when booby traps are shown to be real. Nobody pauses. They're like, let's truck on.
Yep.
The hand from the ground in the grave happened in this movie. That's a classic scary movie trope. The hero can survive hangings, stabbings, bullets.
And candles come out of nowhere, apparently. Like,
yes. The selfish scallywag brother that ends up doing the right thing and gets the gold. Quicksand, because, hey, it's the fucking 90s. They're in the wrong place at the right time every time. The rogue gets the girl. That's classic trope. And the bumbler gets the treasure, which is also the brother thing, but that's still so, because honestly, Benny, had he not had eyes too big for his camel's back, he definitely would have gotten the treasure too. And I actually thought the first time they were going to let him get away with it, which
for
really
sure,
made me
yeah.
mad. But I've got some alternate titles for this movie. The first one is Indiana Jones and the Mummy's Curse.
I like it.
The second one is The Walking Dead. Yeah. 50 Shades of Gold.
That one's okay. I like that one.
Phantom of Hominoptera. I got that one. So Long Benny, because he says that about 30 times every time he tries to kill. Another one I thought of was According to Bembridge Scholars.
Yeah, I like that.
Benny and his debts. The Librarian, which again is a copy of this movie.
Yeah.
Imhotep got your tongue? And then my favorite one is He's Still Juicy.
Ew, yeah. That was gross.
So those are our alternate titles. Little Dad Does Rom-Coms flair for the podcast.
all right. I'm actually going to throw in another little tie-in thing. I actually got a chance to go on to the Mummy's Curse roller coaster ride at Universal before it became a part of the Harry Potter universe now. I gotta say, that is a very interesting roller coaster. If obviously you can't anymore, but yeah, it's set in between Mummy and Mummy, and it's a mine cart going through a pyramid. Don't ask why, but
he skipped his daughter's graduation to go on that ride. She's like, Dad, you're a dick. You love the mummy. Why don't you marry it?
It's like just in time. Give it time. His change about me, but but no, seriously though, it was a very fun ride. On top of that, I do also got to mention even though we're not talking about that mummy, but there is actually a video game based on the Tom Cruise mummy called The Mummy Demastered. Have y'all heard about this?
Worst name ever?
It is the worst name ever, but it's a really badass roguelite Metroidvania where you'll get
so
materials
it's
and
a
stuff.
side scroller.
It's a side scroller. It's roguelite, which means that it changes with different playthroughs. But the thing is it's permadeath, meaning that if you die, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. But if you get to the place where you die,
because that's what we're missing from our youth.
If you go back to the place where you died, all your stuff is going to be there, so you can pick it all up from your.
I mean, I guess that's cool.
But actually, it's
just loot your own corpse. That's all right.
Well, I mean, you do that in Red Dead too, but at least the visuals are nice.
Hey, I have a thing for old style Metro.
Hey man, I love old video games. Permadeath was the worst part.
I don't know. Like right now, the game that I'm playing right now is Dead Cells. I absolutely love that game. It is Castlevania, a different type of Castlevania done right. Considering we haven't had a really good Castlevania game. Anyway, I digress. At this particular point, is there anything else we really want to talk about regarding the Mummy? Because I feel like we've tackled all the stuff that of any interest, but I'm just curious.
Just that I want.
Hey, at least it's not the Crystal Skull,
right? And I want to hate this movie, but I can't, and I'm upset about it.
Yeah, I did have a complete turnaround. And when we first talked about this on the other, after the other podcast, and I said I hated this movie, it was my initial reaction. But I've watched it many times over the years, and it is a fun movie. It's a fun popcorn movie. I get it. I like it. And I hated it. It really brought me around. There's very few movies that I hate the first time, and for good reason. And then they bring me around and are a good movie. And this one was definitely one of those. And honestly, it made me like Brendan Fraser more.
Yeah, I did not expect to actually like his charisma and like be sucked into it, but totally believable. I don't know why he didn't do more of these types of roles, not this specific role, because all of those are terrible.
Yeah, he's talked about it. He went through some of Hollywood stuff.
Yeah,
he went through some like Me Too Hollywood stuff.
Fucked him up. Like seriously.
I mean, like he was the victim.
Oh,
yeah. Well,
so
no,
he was the victim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gone into some stuff.
Really?
I mean, he's had some issues.
But at the same time, though, I'll be honest here. I've seen the 3 episodes of the first season of Doom Patrol. He's due for a resurgence. I feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like Brendan Fraser needs to come back, and he needs to be honored. He needs to have genre fans lining up to see him, because quite honestly, he deserves so much more appreciation than he gets. And I'll be honest here, I like Monkey Bone. I'll just say it right now. I like
forgot
Monkey Bone.
about that one.
I know people who would stone me for saying stuff like that. But Deviled or Bedazzled, there's things I like about it. It's a Harold Ramis
That was Elizabeth
comedy.
Hurley, right?
Yeah. The devil one. There are aspects of it I like. Some of it is not that good, but for the most part, it's decent. Brendan Fraser has never been the thing I don't like. Monsters and Gods and Monsters with him and Ian McKellen. Oh yeah, my
Gods and Monsters
God, that movie's good.
I mean, he should be holding an Oscar for that.
And that is about
both.
It's about the director of Frankenstein. Like there is, So yeah, if you haven't seen Gods and Monsters, you got to see Gods and Monsters.
All right.
But he's also made garbage. He made the Looney Tunes movie. It was garbage. What else did he do? He did the Dudley Do Right, which is a dumb kids movie. I feel
like he was contractually obligated for that one.
He was in the ultimate movie that people love or hate or love to hate, which is Crash. He was in that. For Fury Vengeance, that was horrible. He's made some garbage. Journey to the Center of the Earth. Oh my God.
Okay, no. I'm okay with Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's not the best.
He definitely can't always pick a winner, but when he's good in something, he's really good in something.
Yeah, and he's fantastic in Doom Patrol. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. It's just great. He's perfect in it.
Yeah,
it gets fucking wild too. So you're in for a treat, Eric.
Yeah. No. I've seen, like I said, I've seen the first 3 episodes. I'm intending to see the rest of it because I have HBO Max, and there's only so much Looney Tunes I can sit through without a change. But no,
He was in the classic Airheads too.
Yeah.
By the way, come on.
I'm going through all the Ghibli movies on HBO Max. Great.
Yeah. Anyway, so at this particular point, let's see here. We pretty much went through the geek sheet for the most part. I guess I would just say that Kevin J. O'Connor was also in There Will Be Blood. He was Daniel Day-Lewis's brother. Extremely pale in that. Rachel Weisz, Academy Award winner, Rachel Weisz for The Constant Gardener. She also played the Good Witch of the North in Oz, Great and Powerful, done in the genres. But mostly I know her for her work in the more serious dramas. John Hannah. I'll be honest here, like John Hannah, I can never get over the fact that he has a British accent when he has like this thick Irish accent naturally. And he's made he's made a few movies with his Irish accent that is kind of weirds me out now when I hear him in a British accent. But most notably, 4 Weddings and a Funeral. I don't know if you've done that for your podcast yet. I feel like that should be a staple.
That's a classic, yeah. You missed Constantine for her.
Oh, yes.
As far as
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
I did. And, of course, Arnold Vosloo was Darkman after Liam Neeson. He took the role at Darkman 2, 3, and 4. He was in the Jean-Claude Van Damme classic Hard Target. And, of course, he played bad guys in every action TV show from Alias to NCIS to God knows what. But
do you think he's just like the happiest and nicest person in real life, but he just plays these terrible villains?
That's what I hear about Arnold Vosloo. Usually, what I know is from everything I've heard, usually the bad guys are the sweetest guys in the world. Like it's usually the heroes that are the real assholes, or the ones who usually play the more heroic types are the asshole type.
Do you have Eric Avari on your list of like geek,
geek
actors?
I'm a huge Eric Avari fan already. For
Stargate, man.
Stargate, both the TV show and the movie. Obviously, he was in Independence Day, which we talked about on Arthouse Legends a few years ago. He's done so much work. He's as a bald Eric myself, I aspire. I aspire to Eric Avari. But I love Eric Avari's work. I've always I think he passed away.
You might be right.
Because I was hoping to talk to a fellow bald. But anyway, all right.
Nope, he's still going.
Still going.
Hope's still around. You better be socially isolating, Eric. I swear, I'm going to talk to you someday. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a conversation. Anyway, anything else? Any other parts that I might have forgotten?
Nah.
Oh, quick one. Jerry Goldsmith, the guy who wrote the music for this, obviously known for his Star Trek themes, both for the motion picture as well as the Next Generation theme, as well as all the awesome stuff, Alien and Patton and.
That does remind me, this movie was nominated for an Oscar for sound design.
Yes.
Fucking wild to me. I don't know why that's so wild to me, but it's the summer blockbuster. It shouldn't have a fucking Academy Award nomination.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, all of the sound had to be done afterwards.
Yeah.
Everything.
It was nominated alongside The Matrix and Star Wars Episode.
Yeah, I mean, there was a ton of stuff that they had to put into this movie. I mean, when you think about where they were shooting, the interiors, the echo, all that kind of stuff, imagine a lot of work went into that. I'm sure they campaigned for those awards, so I'm sure they sent around,
Right.
the tapes of all the stuff that they put and the layers and stuff that they did. But that's a lot of work to do these kind of movies. That's why CG movies usually get nominated, because there's so much they have to add in secondary.
All right.
Cool.
Well, at this point, we'll go ahead and quickly go through this. Christian, do you agree with the critics and the audiences on The Mummy? Do you give it a pass? Do you give it a fail? Or do you give it a maybe? Christian.
Original fail, now a pass.
Chris.
A begrudgingly pass.
I'm noticing a pattern here. Obviously, I've been in love with this movie. Even with the problems that it has, I still love this movie. It's not a classic. It's not one of my all-time favorite films. But at the same time, though, I got to admit, there's something just so innocently fun about this movie. It's inoffensive in the right ways, and yet at the same time, it just has so much joy in its heart that you kind of just forgive it for its trespasses. So this is absolute pass on my part. But gentlemen, where can we find you on the internet? Christian.
I'm at daddoesromcoms.com and everywhere podcasts can be found. Dad Does Romcoms. You can also find me sewing things and failing at it at dadsews.com and on YouTube. And I'm at dadsews and at Dad Does Romcoms on Instagram, Facebook, and all those good.
Chris.
I do my own podcast called Ambition Radio, where I interview people who have found some kind of balance between their life, family, career, and the pursuit of their passions, dreams, or hobbies. I'm on all the Facebooks, on all the Instagrams. I don't use Twitter or know how it works. I think that's just like a platform to spew whatever is in your brain. And then you can email me, ambitionradiopodcast@gmail.com. I'm always looking for new stories, so feel free to hit me up and we can talk about it.
And of course, if you're interested in more Arthouse Legends, you can go onto our website, arthouselegends.libsyn.com, or go onto Love Getting Your Podcast, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We have a YouTube channel, Arthouse Legends. You can, if you want to talk to us, you can hit us up, or any of our fans at Arthouse Legends on Facebook, Twitter at Arthouse Legends. And of course, if you just want to send us a nice little note, tell us how awesome we are, or to suggest a movie, you can do so at arthouselegends@gmail.com, and I will get back to you shortly. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. This is the MovieDude Eric.
This is Chris Tondevold.
This is Christian Lee, Internet's dad.
And see you at the drive-in.